Hello friends, welcome to Pathshala. Please do subscribe to this channel and also click the bell icon so that you will be notified every time a new video is posted. Today we will learn about the 122nd Constitutional Amendment Bill. This is one of the important UPSC topics under Current Affairs, General Studies and also Polity section. In this video, we will learn about the difference between a bill and an act and also some brief details about the 122nd bill and the highlights of this bill and the key issues of it and also what are all the changes and the amendments that are made to the Constitution of India. Let's see what is a bill and what is an act. Some people feel it very confusing when they see one particular subject or topic that is related to two different amendments. For example, today we are discussing the 122nd Amendment. This amendment deals with the goods and services tax. But when we find there is another amendment 101 relating to GST, many might think of it as a mistake and finds it difficult to learn and understand. But there is a slight difference when we see the heading completely. Whenever it is on the internet, wherever it is, or any article, we will see different things. One, it will be 122nd Amendment Bill, and the other thing is 101st Amendment Act. So there is a difference between a bill and an act. So what is a bill? A bill is nothing but an idea that is presented in the House of the Parliament, in the Lok Sabha, so that the people there will discuss about that, and then if the majority of them feel it is good for the growth and development of the country, and even if they got the approval from the president, then it will become a rule. Before the bill got all the necessary approvals, it will remain a bill. Only once it got all the majority approval and also the president's approval, then it becomes a rule, which is known as an act. That is the difference between the amendment bill and an amendment act, which is nothing but a bill is an idea to bring changes to the constitution, but when that idea is brought to the implementation, that will become an act. This is the difference between a bill and an act. Now you will get a doubt, why is that the act and the bill are differently numbered? Why don't they have the same number as the 122nd bill and the same 122nd act? So here we see that each and every bill that is presented in the parliament doesn't become a rule. Before this GST, there are total 100 amendment acts, but it was presented in the 122nd amendment bill. So that means there are more bills that may be either elapsed or still pending or going on in the parliament, and some that might have been passed in both the houses of the parliament that are still waiting to go before the presentation of the 122nd bill. And also we have to remember that every bill cannot become an act. So that's why there is a difference in the numbering of the amendment bill and an amendment act. Moving on to the next part, a brief about the 122nd Amendment Bill. This bill was introduced in the Lok Sabha in December 2014 and the finance minister at that time was Shri Arun Jaitley. This bill was then successfully passed in the Rajya Sabha and then it was made the 101st Constitutional Amendment Act. Now let's discuss the highlights of this 122nd Amendment Bill. This bill makes the changes in the Constitution to introduce the goods and services tax. This bill also gave the powers to the state legislature and parliament so that they can operate at the same time to make the GST laws. But when coming to the imposing of integrated goods and service tax, that is the IGST, only the center has that power but not the state on the interstate supply of goods and services or imports. So when there has to be a tax imposed, that is an integrated goods and service tax on the interstate supply, that means the supply of goods and services between the states, that may be between one or two states, then only the center has the power to impose this integrated goods and service tax. And this bill 122nd bill also exempts alcohol for human consumption from this range of goods and services tax. It also recommends 5 petroleum products which include crude petroleum, high speed diesel, petrol, natural gas, aviation turbine fuel, These are to be covered under the GST, but not immediately, maybe after the implementation of the bill during a later period. This bill also recommends a GST council. What will this council do? It recommends the different things that are regarding this tax, such as the tax rate, the period of imposing the tax, the items or the goods and services on which the tax has to be implemented. All these things, the thinking is made by the GST Council. This GST Council consists of Union Finance Minister and the State Finance Ministers and also the Union Minister of State for Revenue. We previously learned that to impose the tax on interstate supply of goods and services, only the center has the power, not the state. And also, this bill gives the power to the center when the interstate supply of goods exceeds for more than 2 or more years, it can impose an additional tax of 1%. Also, this bill provides that after the implementation of this 101st Constitutional Amendment Act, if there is any loss of revenue in the states due to the implementation of this goods and services tax, the Parliament made a promise that it will make up to cover that loss for a period of 5 years. These are some of the highlights of the 122nd Constitutional Amendment Bill. Now we will see the key issues of this bill. Before we discuss our goods and service tax, let's see what is an ideal GST and how the ideal goods and services tax should be. The ideal goods and service tax, what it will do? It creates harmony or balance in the system of taxes, and this ideal goods and services tax will bring all the indirect taxes under one tax. Also, the ideal GST solves the challenges regarding the current indirect tax regime by widening or by increasing the tax base. A tax base is nothing but a total amount of assets or income that can be taxed by the government. So, by increasing this tax base, the government can be able to solve the challenges of the indirect tax regime. An ideal GST will eliminate the sudden drop or extreme drop of taxes. We call this professionally as cascading of taxes. An ideal GST will increase the cooperation and compliance, and also it will reduce the damages and errors and disruptions which are caused due to the variations in the interstate tax collection. Now let's compare our GST to ideal GST. Our bill said it will impose GST on 5 petroleum products in a later period. If this is done, imposing the tax in a later period causes a sudden drop or extreme drop in the taxes, which is not a quality of an ideal GST. Also, our GST imposes an additional 1% tax on interstate goods and services after a period of 2 years. With this, what will happen means the harmony of all the taxes under one tax will be disturbed. The balance is disturbed. This additional tax, 1% tax, also raises a question of why implementing GST at all in the first place when there are extra taxes in the later periods. This additional 1% tax also makes interstate trade costly, and by this, the retail customers will face so many problems, and it again results in the cascading of tax rates. What happens means when the people are facing so many problems, the government has to take some action. So during that time, the government think about decreasing the taxes that may cause sometimes sudden decrease in the taxes, which is nothing but the cascading of taxes. So this result in the failure of the implementation of GST. And another thing that the bill mentioned was to give powers to the center to impose and collect GST. This task of imposing and collecting the tax looks like a separate department, and it increases the administrative burden and the tax compliance on the government. This may lead to many errors and damages because one organization cannot take care of each and every aspect going on in such a huge country like ours. So, what the experts recommend is to set up a bank type model to deal with this interstate issue of GST. Also, what will happen when the government handles the interstate dealings means the center has to maintain the equilibrium without disrespecting any state regarding any matter. It is not an easy task to stand in between two or more different states of the same country and tackle the problems and solving them and giving them a solution. So it would be better to bring into picture some bank like model organization to deal with such sensitive issues. These are some of the key issues of the GST. Let's learn about what are all the changes that are made to our Constitution of India by the implementation of the 122nd Amendment Bill. In our Constitution, Part 12 discusses the finance, property, contracts, and suits. In this Part 12, under Article 246, a new article was included that was 246A. This article deals with the special provisions with respect to the goods and services tax. And there was an Article 268 which was inserted into the Constitution by the 88th Amendment Act 2003, which dealt with the service tax levied by the Union and collected and appropriated by the Union and the states. That article was eliminated or omitted from the Constitution. And another new article 269A was introduced into the Constitution, which deals with the imposition and collection of goods and service tax in course of interstate trade or commerce. A new article 279A was introduced which deals with the Goods and Services Tax Council. Also, a few amendments were made to the 7th schedule of the Constitution of India. This includes in the Union list also the list 1 of the 7th schedule. The duties of the excise list is substituted by certain goods which includes crude petroleum, high-speed diesel, petrol, natural gas, aviation turbine fuel, tobacco and tobacco products. And also under this union list, tax on sale or purchase of newspapers and tax on services has been omitted. In the list 2 or the state list of the 7th schedule, tax on entry of goods into a local area for consumption is eliminated. Tax on advertising is removed. Tax on sale of goods other than newspapers is replaced by a tax on the sale of crude petroleum, high-speed diesel, petrol, natural gas, aviation turbine fuel and alcoholic liquor for consumption. Also, the tax on luxuries, amusements, gambling and entertainment is substituted by the tax on luxuries and entertainment imposed and collected by a panchayat or municipality or some district authorities. So this is about the 122nd Constitutional Amendment Bill, which is also the 101st Constitutional Amendment Act, that is dealing with the goods and service tax. We learnt about the differences between the bill and an act, highlights of the 122nd bill, key issues of the bill, what is an ideal GST, is our GST an ideal one or not, and also the amendments and changes made to the Constitution of India. I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, please do like, share, comment and subscribe. Thank you all. Have a great time.